Okay, good morning. We continue after a little break. Sefer Shmuel Aleph, Perek Beis. We now, that Chana has had her baby Shmuel, and she is going to give, and she gives Shmuel over to Eli to dedicate his life to working in the Mishkan. So now she prays to Hashem, and this is known as the Shira of Chana. So part of this is the conclusion of the Haftorah for the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And this Shira, we're going to spend at least a couple days on this. It's 10 psukim. It's 10 psukim. And there's a number of different ways that this is looked at. The Malbim has one particular derech, how he looks at it. He looks at it as a philosophical treatise. The Vilna Gaon looks at it as a historical analysis. And then the other commentaries add what they do to this as well. So what I'm going to start with will be, first we'll go through these 10 psukim the way the Malbim goes through it. And then we'll go over the 10 psukim again with the other commentaries on the Vilna Gaon's interpretation over here. So the Malbim tells us that the first 9 psukim are praises of Hashem, and the main prayer that she gives, the request, is the final pasuk, the 10th pasuk. As we know, the Talmud says a person should always arrange the praises of Hashem first, and then make the actual prayer with what one wants from Hashem. So let's take a look in pasuk Aleph. Vatispalel Chana, and Chana prayed. Vatomar, and I believe this has been made to a contemporary Jewish song using these words. Vatomar, I don't remember Shalshal, okay. Vatomar, she says, Olatz libi b'Hashem. My heart is happy with Hashem. Rama karni b'Hashem. My horns have risen to attack my enemy through the help of Hashem. Rochai pi al oivai. My mouth has been broadened over my enemy. Ki samachti b'shuasecha. Because I have rejoiced in your salvation. What does all that mean? So the Malbim explains, he says, Olatz libi, that when Eli promised me to have a child, so my heart was already happy. And I didn't have the same face as I had before. She was very unhappy before without a child. When Eli said, I'm going to have a child, I was very happy. And then Rama Karni, and my horn was raised in actuality when I saw that I became pregnant. So now I had what to, so to speak, attack my enemy with, as it were. And then Rochav pi al oivai, and my mouth was expanded over my enemies, meaning when the child was born.
Who's the enemy?
The enemy is obviously Penina. Penina, not a mortal enemy, but an enemy nonetheless. She caused her a lot of pain. So when she gave birth to the children, that now her enemy's mouth was shut. Her enemy had nothing to say. And we'll see more chazal about this, what happened. But here's the important part. That's all, could be interpreted selfishly. But the last 3 words indicate what the whole pasuk means. Ki samachti b'shuasecha. Because I was happy with your salvation. My main ikar simcha, my main joy, wasn't from the salvation alone, right? But from the fact that it was a salvation, b'shuasecha, your salvation, Hashem. It came through a miracle. And through that miracle was recognized your astounding hashkacha, your astounding salvation, that you are the one who brings salvation. That means I became the venue through which your salvation was expressed. It was clearly seen that you are the one who has divine hashkacha pratis over everything in this world. And this is the lead-in to the main treatise of the idea that she's going to explain in this tefillah, the idea of hashkacha pratis. So we're going to go through the Malbim now on Pasuk Beis. Hey, what happened over here? Oh God, I didn't look to see how clean the copies came out of the printer. Can I trouble you to just I don't know, I hate to say the word quickly because I know it isn't going to happen. Isn't going to happen quickly.
But you can put it in and then just.
All right, so then I'm going to need to read from this. I'll give out the bad copy, so if I read it, you'll be able to follow. But I'm sorry I didn't. I neglected to check. Usually, you figure the top one comes out. You don't have to look at the others, right? So you learn from that you got to look at the others. Okay. Hopefully in about 3-4 minutes we'll get a clean copy, but hopefully we can get our way through this. Okay. So now we look at the next. Now the next 8 psukim are her clear arguments pro hashgacha pratis, that Hashem does display divine supervision on a very focused basis. And she expresses it with a pasuk base is a general statement, which is Ein kadosh kashem. There is nothing as holy as Hashem. Ki ein biltecha, because there's nothing aside from you. Vein sur kelokenu, and there's no rock like our God. So what does that mean? So let's take a look in the Malbim inside the sheet. He says like this, on the words Ein Kadosh Kashem. He says, Yan shafilosofim machachishim ha'ashkocha zos haprotis, because the philosophers deny this idea of divine supervision on a prat, on a particular detailed way, and they strengthen themselves to prove that Hashem does not supervise over all the lowly activities. Mikama tainas, for many reasons, which he's going to bring 2 of. So therefore she proceeds to respond to these criticisms, which is like a bow that she returns, as it were. So let's look at their titles. Number 1, Aleph. Number 1, their first complaint is Tanu mitzad kedushas. Their claim is based on Hashem's kedusha, His holiness. What does that mean? Ki geter hakdusha hu heyoso nivdo mikol inyone hageshem umikol midos hanifrom. What does the idea of holiness conjure up in one's mind? Holiness means that one is separated from the physical aspects of the world and all of the attributes that are involved in the physical realm. Holy means beyond physical, not involved with the physical. Contrary ideas of angels and things that have nothing to do with this world. Kedusha, we would think, is the opposite of physicality, and therefore totally removed from it. So if that's the case, and God is the holiest of all holies, so how is it possible that Hashem would be aware of changes that happen in the physical world, whether regarding physicality or in time or in space? In other words, God is holy. Holy things have nothing to do with unholy things, with physical things. The physical is one realm, the holy is another realm. So because He is holy, He should not be involved in this world. Therefore, her words respond to this and say, yes, Hashem is the holiness of the ultimate of holiness. But you can't compare this concept of Hashem's holiness when we try to come up with an image of holiness by ourselves. Okay? You can't compare the 2 aspects of holiness. Okay, good. Now we got clean copies. Okay. Let's give a second to get back to the regular sheets here. Okay, you can't compare them. Why? Shigeter HaKedusha Etzleinu. When we talk about Kedusha by ourselves, when we think of holiness, that a person is holy, Who Avdallah Mikol Davar Chomer. It's separation from all physicality. Vinyanav Umasigov, and any of the concepts that revolve around it. The Yischayev Shekol Sheyakadish Yoser Yirchet Yoser V'Yavdu Vinyanim Shumiskadish Rem, and will require for a person, the more holy he becomes, he should distance himself more from these physical things from which he's sanctifying himself from. Similar to the Nazir. The Nazir is called a Kodesh Lashem. He's holy to Hashem, and he refrains from a lot of physical things. A holy person stays away from certain physical things. Lochein HaKedusha Etzli Yisparach, but that's not so when we talk about the holiness by Hashem. She'ein Dover Bilto, because there is nothing besides Him. Ratzalorming to say, Kikolanat Solim Hanivroim Vanasim, anything that emanates and that's been created or happens, Elam Kiyum Rega Biladei Ritzona V'Shifa V'Ashkoch V'Asov V'Tvakeslam. They have no existence for a moment if it not be for the will and the influence and the supervision and the attachment that Hashem has to them. Everything in this world only exists because of Hashem's will for it to exist. And if that will would move away from it for a moment, it would return to nothingness. Hashem fills the entire reality of the world and surrounds the entire reality of the world. To give them life and existence, and to give them reality. And they all are nullified in relation to their reality compared to Him. And they only exist because Hashem exists to give them life and to give them a place of existence. And therefore His definition of holiness is much different, which is totally different from anything else where they have no existence other than Him. So now we understand the words that she's saying in her prayer. This is what the text says when it means, Ein Kodesh Hashem. There's no holiness like Hashem. In other words, what you think is holy for people, that's not how we define holiness by Hashem. Why? Because what's your Kedusha? The Kedusha is because there's nothing other than you. Meaning to say, because everything is nullified to your reality, and you are everything. So you're right. The definition of holiness for anything else that's holy, is being to separate from others. But for Geter Kedushascha, but Hashem's definition of His holiness, that everything is from you, umimcha hakol, everything is in you and everything is from you. There is nothing but you, because without you nothing exists. And that's something that people can't fathom. Because they all are nullified in your reality. So that is point number one. We look at holiness as something that other people have by removing themselves from physicality. And that makes you a holier person. That is correct. Not permanent removal from physicality, but you do remove yourself to a great extent from the physical world. The physical world brings out the lower aspect of the human being, the nefesh bahamis, the animalistic soul, and you have to bring out your spiritual soul. So it needs to be removed from this physical world. But Hashem doesn't need to be removed from the physical world because He's the source of the physical world. The physical world will not be a temptation to Hashem to bring Hashem down. He's the one who made it. So He knows what it is. He knows what the physical... We don't know what the physical world is. We think the physical world is more real than it actually is. And therefore we've got to stay away from it. But Hashem, who made the physical world, He understands that the magician isn't fooled by the hallucinations that he creates, the illusions that he creates. He made it. See, he's not going to get by. So why does he have to stay away from it? He made the illusion. So he's not so foolish to believe in the illusions that he makes. So Hashem can be very connected to what he makes. It's what he makes it. So that's the response to point number one. Base, point number two. Ta'ano al hashkacha ishis. Now, what about the personal hashkacha, the personal supervision? Which there's a whole different question they asked. Sha'achar shleimus shemishleimus ha'uman ha'osa kol klimasa. If we look at the perfection of a craftsman from anything he makes, when somebody makes something, it should be made perfect the first time. You should have to go back and fix it a second time. When you get someone to put wallpaper on a wall, you would hope you don't have to come back a month later and tell them, the wallpaper's peeling off. It's not a very good craftsman if that happens, right? The good craftsman does it right the first time, right? He doesn't have to go back again. Because if you have to go back again, that shows there was a deficiency in his workmanship. So a good craftsman, you don't have to come back. He makes it right the first time. You can ask the question. Since Hashem created the world, and the nature of the world, and he established them based on principles that shouldn't change, right? God, do you know how to make a world or not? So you know how to make a world, you should be able to walk away from it. Just like the guy who puts the wallpaper guy should be able to leave and not have to come back. So the guy shouldn't come back. Says Hashem, you shouldn't come back to your world. You made a good world, now leave it. Right? How's it going to be? Hashem is going to change the nature at any moment. Or to save someone that he is supervising, to take him away from what the nature should do to him. That would show that there's a deficiency in the natural order which he created, Asher Goval, which he defined, with the things that he made. God, if you're the perfect craftsman, then everything should work fine. What do you got to get involved again? If it's a perfect world, the tzaddik, leave him alone. The tzaddik will be okay. Right? Now that's an amazing question. Right? I'll say, hey, Shiv, this is the next part, ain't sur kelikim. There's no rock like our God, meaning to say, she'ein adoim l'shar hayotzrim. He's not the same as sur can also come from the word sayar, which is an artisan or one who is yotzar, who fashions. That he's not like other people who fashion, or sculptures. Sha'achar, somebody else. Sha'achar yotzi kli l'maseh yidei yotzi misulakim min hapula v'ador niskayim asmo. A normal sculptor, when he removes his hand from the final product, he has nothing to do with it anymore. If he has to fix it again, so something was wrong the first time. Not the one who is the sculptor of all sculptors. Why? Here's the point. His hands are never removed from what he makes. He's constantly involved with it. Why? Because the maintenance of nature is an ongoing creative process. If the world was such that it is made once and it can exist on its own, then we'd have a question. But the world cannot exist on its own. The whole world's existence is based on God's will. That is a constant will to make it into being. Remember, the sculptor is working with finite material that came before he came to do his work. God came to work with nothing. So he brought nothing into existence, and only exists by his will, so therefore there's an ongoing maintenance required. And if he moves his hand away from the world for a moment, the entire reality will stop and cease. So sometimes God will let it go on a natural course, which He keeps bringing into reality. Even nature, He keeps moving ahead. And it could come sometimes with other laws, which other ones that are chosen, which is what we call miracle. Because really nature is a miracle too, mitamid, but it's a constant miracle. And the last word that was on the next page, mitamedes. Mitamedes, a constant supervision. So what he's saying over here is that we're talking about two different types of creations. A sculptor makes something that doesn't have a dynamic reality. It's a static reality. When a craftsman makes something, he just makes it. One thing we know, let's say in the computer world, right? There's no such thing as selling a computer and walking away from it, right? There's got to be constant, you're selling with what do you call maintenance contract, right? Because the nature of the business is things change, right? There's so many variables. I mean, I don't know anything about computers, but I don't think the problem is they make a defective computer. I don't think that's the problem. Let's on a simple level, okay? I know so little about computers, I can stand to be corrected. But on a simple level, right? The guy sells you a computer. He says, listen, here's the manual. If you read the whole manual, you will never have a computer problem. We'll assume for a minute that the manufacturer makes a good computer. We're not talking about a defect in the computer, okay? The computer is 100% fine. There's no problem with the computer, okay? But there is something called human error, isn't there? Right? And so it's something. It's called. You have to have technical support to help the human error. Now, would you rather go to a computer company that sells a computer and that doesn't offer you technical support, or do you want one that does offer you technical support? Right? What's a greater asset? The guy who makes the computer but's not willing to support you? How many sales do you get if you sell the computer but you don't offer any support? Versus you sell and you offer support. Not because they made a bad computer, but it's they want you to when you mess up the computer, that it should still be able to work. So let's say for my simple laptop that's archaic already after 4 years, right? So I'm trying to get internet connection. It's not going. There's something wrong with the computer. It's not giving me internet, So then you call the technical support. Then they ask you a couple simple questions like, is the plug in? Oh yeah. When I was vacuuming the carpet, and this happens a few times when the nanny comes to my house. Sometimes I come back to my computer, it's not working. There's a whole bunch of wires underneath the desk. Sometimes she'll bang the wires. So first thing is they'll say, put the plug in. And then they'll say, maybe you have to reset it because it's been knocked out. Or sometimes you have this little button in the front of my computer that disables the wireless connection. And you can just bump into it by accident and you disable the wireless connection. And you can stand there for the rest of your life and you'll never have internet until you call the guy at technical support and says, did you perhaps by mistake disable the wireless connection? Just give that little press. You see that orange button there? You press it. Now it's green. Now it's going to work. Well, I guess the guy who made the computer was not very good because he had to get involved. Because he couldn't walk away from it. It's not that he can't walk away from it. It's people are so stupid, he can't leave us to take care of this world by ourselves. Now, I'm saying more than what the Malbim is saying. The Malbim isn't saying what I'm saying, but...
It's not that we're so stupid, it's that Hashem wanted us to perfect
I understand, but we need technical support. That's the point. He's saying Hashem created us from nothing, so it needs our constant involvement to be able to continue to work. Right? That's what the Malbim is saying. He's saying that when he makes something, he makes it that every moment it needs his involvement. It needs to have his involvement because it doesn't exist on its own. It doesn't exist and never exists. It's always being recreated. So of course he's not going to leave it because it's always being why does it have to be recreated? Because the creation itself has no basis for its existence. But I'm taking the Malbim's idea a step further over here. You know, okay, he's not saying this, but this is certainly true. This is certainly true, right? Hashem gives us a good product. This earth is a good product, right? But he made people that they need to grow, and they're going to make mistakes. And because they're going to make mistakes, they need technical support. Right? I think that's the modern example really clarifies this. You can buy the best computer in the world, the best. What big company is going to buy computers without any technical support? You're out of your mind. And not just because, even if the computer would never break, if the guy says, I guarantee you, I swear to you, in the next 5 years, this computer will never malfunction once. Let's say you knew that for a fact. Would people still not go for technical support? Because the people will press the wrong buttons. Will make the wrong mistakes. And now when you press the wrong buttons, things don't work out the way they're meant to work out. So then you have to have some technical support. Okay, now readjust this. Hashem has to come in and start readjusting things so things work out fine. Okay. So this is the basis of what she's saying, that certainly in Pasuk Aleph she's saying, I'm happy because of your salvation that you were involved and showed your divine supervision. And Pasuk Beis is explaining why theologically this must be so. Alright, good. Any comments? Good. Shelley, you're happy with that?
Great. I mean, it said God must live in the Philippines.
God must live in the Philippines. Okay, good.
No, but you know what? I think about 80% of the calls we get are probably all resolved on the phone, which means
it's that kind of thing.
It's really
how often is it because your computer was broken?
Exactly.
Not that often.
Maybe 20% of the calls have been broken.
Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, let's move on to Pasuk Gimel now. Okay, now I'm going to go into text and I'll be speaking out the Malbims. It's just beautiful the whole way he goes through all this. So Pasuk Gimel he says, Al tarbu tidabru givoa givoa. Don't increase to speak higher and higher. Yetze osak mipiem. That strong word should come out of your mouth. In other words, you shouldn't. She's speaking to the naysayers. She's speaking to the philosophers now. So you shouldn't say these words. We're going to see in a minute. For example, Kikel Deos Hashem. Is Hashem the God of knowledge? Velo, we'll read with a vav. Velo niskun alios, and does God know the many pathways that people traverse? So what the Malbim explains over here is because I've already explained to you the kind of divine supervision Hashem has. So, he doesn't want to hear this arrogant talk of the philosophers. Gavoa, gavoa, the highfalutin talk. Or they say like this, that gavoa, gavoa, that since Hashem is gavoa, gavoa, since Hashem is very high, He's higher than the high. So since He's higher than the high, He's beyond bothering to look what's going on with the low world over here. That since He's so high, right? So therefore, what does He care about what's going on with what's going on below over here? And more than that, because if He does, that would bespeak some type of failure in God's perfection as well. So she's saying, you guys think He's so high, and because He's so high, He shouldn't be involved in what's going on over here. And I'm telling you, because He's so high, He is involved with what's going on. Therefore, it shouldn't be al yarbu tadaber, these words, and yetze osak mipiem, that your complaints, criticisms, or strong words shouldn't come out of your mouth. That what? Kikel deos Hashem, that Hashem would know what's going on in people's minds. In other words, what the Bible explains, people's minds change, ideas change, opinions change, and things do change a lot. Because I think maybe I'll do this today. No, I changed my mind. I'll do that today. So if God now is going to be involved, in other words, if we are involved in future movements, and if God is aware of that, that means we think that, well, if yesterday this person didn't think this way, today he does think this way, now Hashem has a new piece of information, doesn't he? Well, a perfect being is perfect all the time. How does a perfect being now have new information he didn't have yesterday? Right? I mean, you know everything Hashem, right? You can't. A perfect being can't have new information tomorrow because it's perfect. So that's what they're saying. He's too elevated to be Kel Deos Hashem, to know what people are thinking new, the new ideas that people are thinking, because that would take away from his perfection. Or similar, lo niskun alilos, or the actions that come out and the changes that happen in the world. He can't be aware of these changes because now that's something new that he didn't know beforehand. So if he's that perfect and that high, you're suggesting his involvement with this world would mean that I guess today he learned something he didn't know yesterday. And now that makes him more perfect than he was the day before. So she says you shouldn't say these kinds of talks because that's just, you don't understand the nature of what God is. You don't understand what the nature of God is, and you can't say that. And therefore it goes through a number of examples now where the people are saying, you know, how could God know the following things, the following changes that happen? And that's going to be going on now from Pasuk Gimel through Hey. These are the philosophical questions that are lies. In other words, you know, how could God know this? How could God know that? And there's going to be the next 3 psukim are the changes that happen. You know, you're telling me that God is involved in all this? Well, God's being involved in all this doesn't seem to speak of a being who is so beyond this physical world over here, who's so perfect, there's no involvement in this world. He's not involved in these types of things. You want to say that God is a Kel Deos Hashem? That Lo Niskenu Alilos, that Hashem is involved with all these things? And these next 3 psukim are the examples of the involvements that we're talking about that they think Hashem is not involved with. Yeah?
Does the Malbim suggest that she was in a state of nevuah when she wrote this?
The Malbim doesn't say it, but the Targum Yonasan does, and the Vilna Gaon says that. But for other things, the Malbim doesn't say that at all. If I'm not mistaken, it just says it's a tefillah. He learns it more as a tefillah. Very brilliant philosophy. Very brilliant philosophy. Okay, he doesn't suggest it. The others, because the others will talk about predictions, futuristic predictions that she makes. That's nevuah.
Just if you look at nevuah as just such an incredible closeness to Hashem.
So it could be they're both right. It could be they're both right. It could be that she had. I mean, it could be she. Listen, a prayer can be learned in many aspects. It could be there was a nevuah for certain things, and once you have a nevuah, Luzzatto says, your understanding of reality is different.
That's how I was looking at it.
So now here are the changes that happen. That you know, how could these things happen, and that God would be involved in these types of happening? For example, now we move on to Pasuk Daled. Let's start with the aspect of strength and weakness. So how could it be that God's involved in Keshes Giborim Chatim, that the bow of the mighty is broken, V'nichshalim, and the ones who were generally seen as weak, they now gird themselves in strength. Okay, because the keshes, the bow, is a symbol of power, right? And now they get broken, while the guys who were very weak now are very strong. So you're going to tell me that God is involved with all that stuff? And now all of a sudden, and He's involved in changes in the world. That means that Hashem is changing along with them? Or Pasuk Hey, we're talking about now wealth and poverty. Sveim balechem niskaru, the people who were satiated with bread, the very wealthy, now niskaru, they have to rent themselves out to be workers for people. Right? Shows you how poor they became. Ure'evim chodelu, and the hungry people, chodelu, would cease to have to rent themselves out as workers. They now would become wealthy and they wouldn't have to rent themselves out as workers. So that's the second aspect. Are you saying God's involved in that? And the third aspect regarding children. until the barren woman gives birth to 7. Now, the Malbim explains, or it's not the Malbim or someone else, I don't remember who said this, but the idea is, in other words, the question is, how could the Hashkach affect all the details to such a point that the barren woman gives birth to 7? Now, the Malbim says not necessarily has to be 7. 7 is always an expression of a lot. We want to use a lot because 7 is the full number in the physical world. It's the 7 days of the week. It's like the maximum physical number, as it were. We usually pick 7 for those kinds of things. It says the enemies run away in 7 directions, things like that. So it means a lot. The problem being, because we'll learn later on the parak, we only see the Chana had 5 children. She didn't have 7. So how could you say she had 7? So we'll discuss that later. Other Meforshim answer this question differently. Rashi and others answer differently. Mom is just saying 7 means a lot. So how could God be involved in children being brought into the world? Right? And on the other hand, Varabas Bonim Umlala. And the one that has a lot of children will become Umlala, will become forlorn. And will lose the children. And that's obviously a reference to Chana and Penina. The Chana was the one who didn't have children, and now she had many children. And Penina, unfortunately, had many children and lost nearly all her children. So this is the questions. This is all the questions. It's from Gimel through Vav, through Hey, are the questions. How could God be involved in these things? This isn't what a perfect God would be involved with. So now the answers go now from Vav through Tes, are the answers that she gives. So now she responds, says, you should know the truth is, for all these changes that happen, these are changes because of God's divine intervention. It's because of His technical support in the world. And now she comes back and she goes in reverse order from the ones that were going on from Pasuk Dalet through Hey. She reverses it backwards and responds and says, no, it is Hashem memis umechayeh. No, it is indeed Hashem's involvement, that He is the one who kills. In other words, the one who has many children, the children are killed. Umechayeh, and He's the one who brings life to the Akara, to the one that has no children. Hashem does that. Morit Sheol Vayah, brings down to the depths and brings up. So now he adds more to just children. He adds to the point to the dead. Morit Sheol, he brings the dead down, and Vayol, he brings them up, meaning to say with Tchias HaMesim. He can do the resurrection of the dead as well. Right. So Hashem is involved in all these things. Other Meforshim explain more. He brings them down to Sheol. Sheol means down to Gehenna, to the lowest levels. Hashem, not only a person dies, He can bring them down to Sheol, all the way to the lowest levels of Gehenna. And then Vayol, He can bring them up when it's time for Tchias HaMesim. And regarding the poverty and the wealth, Pasuk Zayin, Hashem Morish Umashir. Hashem can make people poor. He can make people rich. And that which you say, what about the strong versus the weak? So it says, Mashpil Af Meromeh. He can lower the strong guys and Meromeim and elevate the weak ones. It's Hashem able to do all these things. Pasuk Ches. Mekim Meyofar Dol. He's able to bring up the poor man from the dirt. Okay, hollow sounds a little bit like that. All right, and more than that, and also me'ashpos yorim evyon, and the evyon, the one who's even more destitute, who's in the garbage dumps, he could lift up the most destitute fellow to do what? Lahoshiv im nidivim, to bring him up with the most philanthropic, noble people around. In other words, not just to pick him up, but to put him amongst the highest society. And give him an inheritance of a chair of glory. Because to Hashem, He owns the pillars of the world. Vayoshes aleim table, and put the entire world on those pillars. We'll have to explain what this pasuk means with a little more clarity tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. So we'll continue in pasuk Ches.